Our story begins long ago with a tale of greed and consequence. A powerful faction desecrated divine ruins, mining them for their resources. But the guardians of this sacred land would not stand for such sacrilege. They unleashed ancient monsters, driving the invaders from their lands. These creatures, trapped in the human world, became spiritual beings. They now exist as shadows, seeking hosts to survive in this new reality. And that ancient punishment echoes into the modern day. News reports are filled with warnings of mutated lifeforms on the loose. On a rainy night, the city hums with a nervous, uneasy energy. A train pulls into the station, carrying our story forward into the storm. Inside, the train is a pressure cooker of human misery. But amidst the sea of despair, one passenger remains untouched. Meet Chinshi, a fresh graduate who uses music as his shield. Kicked out by his family, he's in Huang City to carve out a life. Nearby, an armed guard stands watch, a symbol of the city's tension. Suddenly, a monstrous shadow looms over the unsuspecting officer. Even interdimensional monsters need their beauty rest, apparently, but its slumber does little to hide the rows of razor-sharp teeth. The collective dream turns into a nightmare as everyone finally looks up. Even Chinshi's music can't drown out the pure, unadulterated panic. Amidst the screaming, Chinshi is more irritated than terrified by the chaos. The guard's lifeless body hits the floor, a dark stain spreading beneath him. In his place rises a monstrous beast, its only thought to destroy. The passengers finally realize this isn't a dream, it's a real-life monster. The ancient spirit has taken full control, twisting its host into a vessel of rage. It tears through the crowd, and Chinshi sees the brutal reality up close. A cheerful station announcement chimes in, completely oblivious to the carnage. But the train screeches to a violent halt, throwing passengers like rag dolls. Bodies are sent flying as the entire car is rocked by the sudden impact. And just when they thought it couldn't get worse, the doors lock shut. Panic turns to a stampede as everyone scrambles for an exit. It's a tidal wave of pure terror, shoving everyone in its path. The entire car is a blur of motion and desperate screams for help. Forgotten belongings litter the floor, a grim testament to the chaos. Chinshi's irritation finally gives way to a cold, dawning dread. The beast stands over the fallen, its one-word mantra of destruction echoing. Its roar reveals the spirit's ancient purpose, to destroy and reclaim the land. Meanwhile, another passenger calmly analyzes the host's emotional instability. Great time for psychoanalysis. But this is no ordinary passenger, as a clawed hand reaches for the exit. His escape plan is complicated by a grandmother shielding her terrified grandchild. The mysterious passenger makes a choice, offering to be the decoy. He flashes a confident smile, banking on his old track and field skills. But at the same time, the events in the train car are being watched. A powerful, unseen entity observes the chaos, having finally found its target. Back on the train, the passenger gets the monster's full attention. He sprints down the narrow aisle, leading the beast away from the others. He taunts the creature, making sure its rage is focused entirely on him. The beast's eyes glow with pure, unthinking hatred as it gives chase. But his plan hits a snag as a massive fist comes crashing down. His speed wasn't enough. The monster seizes him, ready to demolish its prey. The doors finally open to a rescue team, and the grandmother cries out for the hero left behind. But inside, the mysterious passenger is brutally slammed into the train floor. The monster's raw power pins him down, shaking the entire train car. He gasps in agony, the force of the blow nearly breaking him. The beast looks down on its prey, savoring its easy victory. He admits his fatal miscalculation. Track and field skills don't count for much here. In the end, all he can do is watch his sacrifice seal his fate. The doors slide shut, sealing him inside a metal coffin with the beast. As the last sliver of light vanishes, he confronts his own mortality. Outside, the little girl desperately pleads for the soldiers to save her hero. The commander of the rescue team barks orders, telling his men to hold their positions. But inside the sealed train car, a dark ancient energy begins to swirl violently. The strange, shadowy essence seems to have found a new target in Chinshi. Dazed and bleeding, our boy struggles to process the nightmare he's been thrown into. His hand twitches as the unknown power begins to seep into his very being. Meanwhile, the decoy faces his end, lamenting a life cut tragically short. As his consciousness fades, a memory from his past begins to surface. He remembers his mother's constant disappointment. Classic childhood trauma. He recalls being cornered by bullies, a regular part of his miserable school life. Even his attempts at romance ended in rejection and public humiliation. He coughs up blood, his final moments filled with pain and indignation. But even as his breath fails, A flicker of defiance remains in his eyes. All his life he's wanted one thing: to win, just for a single moment. The beast rears back, ready to grant him a final, crushing defeat. But a sudden blast of golden energy intercepts the monster's attack. A new voice echoes in the car, a desperate plea to live and win. The ancient shadow that targeted Chinshi finally reveals its terrifying form. It surges into our boy, a torrent of power rewriting his very existence. The spirit greets him like an old friend. Talk about a weird reunion. Overwhelmed, Chinshi can only believe this is all some horrible illusion. Chinshi's mind reels, convinced this is just a hallucination before death. But the spirit's voice cuts through, declaring this is very real. Dark, jagged armor begins to materialize around Chinshi's body. The ancient power wraps around him, forging a new vessel from his flesh. The beast's fist continues its downward arc, aimed to crush the decoy, but its attack is stopped cold by a newly formed armored gauntlet. The spirit promises to give him something more than just power. In a flash, Chinshi is transformed into a demonic warrior. Talk about a glow-up. The spirit offers him the one thing he's never had: hope. The monster stares in disbelief, its own power now completely outmatched. With newfound strength, Chinshi drives his armored fist into the monster's spine. The spirit's power reshapes his gauntlets, forging deadly crystalline claws. The spirit explains their purpose. These claws can sever the parasitic bond. He brings the crimson talons down with blinding speed and precision. The spirit gleefully calls it surgery, as Chinshi unleashes a vicious flurry. With a final, decisive strike, he declares the host's liberation. The monstrous form dissolves, releasing the guard's unconscious body. The former host collapses, his body hitting the metal floor with a thud. He's left a broken man, convulsing from the parasitic ordeal. The lesser spirit, now severed from its host, begins to dissipate into the air. The ancient spirit greets the fading entity with a predatory smile, but the lesser spirit isn't going down without a fight. It launches itself at Chinshi in a final, desperate assault. Chinshi's feet transform, digging into the floor with monstrous claws. The ancient spirit sees not a threat, but a high-quality meal. His helmet splits open, revealing a maw of razor-sharp teeth. He swallows the spirit whole, looking like a cartoonishly bloated lizard. The aftertaste, however, seems to be a bit of a problem. The spirit declares its first meal in this world utterly disgusting. His attention is drawn to the rescue team now charging down the corridor. The spirit recognizes the approaching soldiers as the security department. An elite squad of armored troopers floods the car, their red eyes glowing. But the ancient spirit's power begins to flicker and fade within him. The armor cracks, revealing Chinshi's terrified human face underneath. The fusion is unstable, and our boy is losing control at the worst possible moment. He looks down at his monstrous hands, the reality of his change crashing down. His reflection in the window shows a terrifying creature staring back at him. The adrenaline wears off, replaced by pure, unadulterated panic. He screams, questioning his new horns while the soldiers just wonder about his cosplay. But the soldiers' cold, glowing eyes suggest they aren't here to admire his outfit. Chinshi looks over at the unconscious decoy, the hero he was forced to save. He stares at his claws, the memory of his own power flashing before his eyes. The spirit appears, clarifying that it's not a parasite, but his savior. The spirit clarifies that the decoy is just unconscious, not dead. Great bedside manner. With the order to fire, the elite squad unleashes a hail of energy blasts. He's thrown into a whirlwind of motion, deflecting the incoming barrage. But Chinshi isn't in control. The spirit is moving his body like a puppet. The spirit ignores his questions, its only focus now on their escape. A shot lands, and the spirit notes their teamwork could use some improvement. The soldiers manage to inject him, and Chinshi's reaction is less than intimidating. The soldiers report the tranquilizer dart had absolutely no effect. With their first plan failed, the squad moves to stun him with a shock grenade. But the spirit, in full control, welcomes the challenge with a grin. Its glowing eyes narrow, relishing the chance to show off its power. The grenade is thrown, but the armored warrior moves with impossible speed. The spirit casually bats away a bullet, bidding the soldiers a mocking farewell. He ricochets through the train car, a phantom escaping their trap. A blonde woman arrives on the scene, clearly in charge of this operation. Her disappointment is palpable as she berates her soldiers for their failure. Meanwhile, the spirit gives the unconscious decoy a curious sniff. Guess he passed the vibe check. The train car is left with a gaping hole, a clear sign of their target's escape. The blonde commander demands results from a wolf-like subordinate. The creature decides its current form is no longer necessary for the conversation. Its monstrous jaws snap shut as the transformation begins. Flesh and bone contort as the beast shifts into a more humanoid shape. He settles into his human form, a pale man with the same eerie, glowing eyes. He claims his animal form is more approachable. Sure, if you're into that. Analyzing the damage, he confirms the newly formed spirit can't be far. The commander tries to recruit the man, Bu Feng, but he's not interested in joining her team. He explains that mystics like him are unique and don't fit into normal society. But Bu Feng holds up, telling her to wait a moment. He casually takes a seat amidst the wreckage of the train car. She scolds him for resting, but he tells her to be quiet so he can sense their target. He then informs her that actually finding the target will cost extra, a true professional. He closes his eyes, reaching out with his senses to find his quarry. An ethereal mist swirls around him as he taps into his unique abilities. His senses fly across the city, locking onto Chinshi's desperate escape. He gets a clear vision of the target, still encased in the dark armor. But the spirit's power is unstable, the armor already dissolving from his body. Back on the train, Bu Feng strains, the effort of the search taking its toll. His mind connects with the spirit, a terrifying ancient consciousness. The psychic feedback is immense, pushing his senses to their absolute limit. But the spirit senses him too, and it seems more than happy to play. The connection is violently severed, throwing Bu Feng back into his own mind. He reels from the psychic backlash, completely overwhelmed by the spirit's power. The spirit mocks his intrusion, calling his tracking technique creepy. Talk about the pot calling the kettle black. Back on the train, a single drop of sweat hits the floor, a sign of his struggle. The commander turns, noticing her tracker is having some technical difficulties. Her expression is unreadable, a mix of impatience and cold analysis. Despite the psychic beatdown, Bu Feng exhales, confirming he's found their target. The commander rushes to his side, her usual composure completely shattered. Bu Feng collapses, the psychic assault leaving him gasping for air. He mutters a warning about the spirit's power as she calls for a medical team. But there's no time for that. She grabs him, demanding to know where the target is. With his last bit of strength, he manages to give her a location. District 9. The effort completely drains him, leaving him on the verge of unconsciousness. With the information secured, her focus shifts from concern back to the mission. She barks an order to a subordinate, whose body crackles with electrical energy. Another soldier with glowing red eyes confirms the command, ready to give chase. In a flash of lightning, the elite trackers are gone, hot on Chinshi's trail. The blonde commander smirks, confident her elite unit can outrun anyone. Across the city, a high-speed chase blurs the line between buildings. Chinshi leaps through the air, a demonic figure against the urban skyline. But inside, he argues with the spirit, who declares their bond is now permanent. Chinshi complains that the rooftop parkour is making him sick. Fear of heights is a real buzzkill. The spirit explains the rooftops are their only safe path from trackers below. But our boy has had enough, screaming that he wants to get down now. The spirit scolds him for starting a fight while they're literally mid-leap. His panic finally overwhelms him, his human terror breaking through the armor. And with a final scream, their argument sends him plummeting from the sky. He crashes down into a narrow alleyway, a human meteor in a concrete canyon. The armor absorbs most of the impact, but Chinshi still feels every bit of the landing. The spirit scolds him, explaining the armor saved his life but now needs to recover. Now on his own, Chinshi ducks into a side street, ignoring the spirit's navigational advice. A lone puddle ripples, disturbed by unseen footsteps approaching the alley. Suddenly, a desperate man barrels down the street, pursued by armored enforcers. The fleeing man spots Chinshi hiding in the shadows, dragging him into the conflict. Chinshi's eyes widen as he realizes his quiet escape is officially over. The enforcers round the corner, their menacing silhouettes armed with cruel-looking hooks. He presses himself against the wall, hoping a simple trash can is enough to hide him. Chinshi breathes a sigh of relief, realizing the enforcers weren't after him. Meanwhile, the man who started the chase finds a new, less-than-glamorous hiding spot. The spirit gives Chinshi new instructions. Find the clock tower and head for the shelter. It warns him that his old apartment is no longer safe from the security division. But Chinshi's only regret is not deleting the research on his hard drive. Priorities. The spirit finds his human concerns amusing as Chinshi blends back into the city. But from the rooftops above, another figure is watching his every move. The mysterious observer looks down, his gaze fixed on his target below. Suddenly, his position is compromised as a volley of energy blasts rains down. Before he can react, A powerful stomp pins him to the cold concrete. The rooftop observer grunts, the force of the impact cracking the concrete beneath him. His captor, one of the elite trackers, snarls a command for him to stay down. Held upside down, the observer can only laugh nervously as he's declared under arrest. But with surprising agility, he twists free, using the rooftop pipes to break his fall. He lands with a practiced grace, ready for the inevitable confrontation. The tracker offers him a choice: cooperate or surrender the spirit living inside him. The observer's defiant gaze makes it clear he won't be giving up his power easily, but to the tracker's surprise, he suddenly agrees to cooperate. Meanwhile, back in the alley, the man from the chase berates Chinshi for surrendering. With a manic grin, Chinshi lunges, blaming the monster inside him for what's about to happen. But the observer catches the punch, stopping the tracker's assault cold. The tracker seethes, dismissing the move as nothing more than cheap trickery. A voice inside the observer offers him a weapon, knowing he'd never surrender. He accepts the power, his eyes glowing as he prepares to fight back. The tracker tries to crush the new gauntlet, but its power is absolute. With a powerful kick, the observer sends his opponent flying across the roof. The tracker slams into the concrete, his own strength turned against him. The observer marvels at his new weapon, which his spirit promptly renames. The spirit proudly boasts that its cute little ghost friends crafted the gauntlets, but the tracker rises, declaring the fight is now a matter of law and order. The observer's eyes glow with defiance. He refuses to surrender his freedom or his spirit. He roars a challenge, ready to fight to the bitter end. The tracker's eyes burn with rage, promising a painful lesson in obedience. He lunges forward in a blur of motion, only to find his target has vanished. The observer reappears from above, his spirit warning him of the coming attack. He lands a swift kick, catching the enforcer completely off guard. His spirit offers tactical advice as the observer struggles to keep up with the tracker's speed. He channels his power, preparing to counter the relentless assault. He manages to block the next strike, his new gauntlet holding strong, but the sheer force of the blow sends him flying into a pile of rooftop debris. The spirit reassures its host, promising its full support in the fight. But the observer snaps back, annoyed by his spirit's backseat fighting. The spirit warns him as the tracker closes the distance in an instant. He grabs a nearby container, his eyes locked on his approaching foe. With a desperate swing, he uses the object as a makeshift weapon, but the tracker shatters it with a single contemptuous punch. Enraged, the enforcer dismisses the observer as nothing more than a child. But the observer's own power flares, unleashing crimson claws of his own. The rooftop erupts into a flurry of strikes and counters. He meets the tracker's fist with his own, a brutal test of strength. The tracker grits his teeth, pushing through the pain of the last blow. His armor cracks as he clutches his chest, the impact more severe than he let on. But the observer is just getting started, boasting that his claws are the ultimate weapon. The tracker's rage boils over, his body erupting with a dark, violent energy. He finally recognizes his opponent as a heteromorph, another host to a spirit. The observer's spirit mocks the security agency for hiring outside help. Apparently, their tech isn't cutting it. It explains that the tracker's own spirit is trying to break free from its host. The observer's attack has severed the bond, a process known as concordance. But the separation isn't clean, and the tracker's body erupts in uncontrolled power. He transforms into a monstrous wolf, demanding the observer surrender his spirit or die. The observer realizes the tracker's desperation has let the parasitic spirit take over. The wolf-like beast lunges, a blur of pure, unrestrained aggression. He's sent flying by a brutal strike, his body ragdolled through the air. He desperately calls out to his spirit, needing a way to counter the assault. He skids across the concrete, barely keeping his footing against the whirlwind attack. His spirit shouts a warning as a massive claw swipes in from the left. He's forced into a desperate dance, dodging a relentless flurry of strikes. Even his spirit warns that their defenses are about to crumble. So much for full support. But instead of folding, he braces himself, preparing for one last gamble. With a look of pure defiance, he decides it's time to go all in. He channels all his remaining power into his crimson gauntlets. With a desperate roar, he launches himself directly at the beast. His eyes burn with borrowed power as the spirit takes the wheel. He narrowly evades a crushing blow, twisting through the air. But the force of the attack sends him plummeting off the roof onto the street below. His spirit cheekily points out that their coordination is getting better. Sure, if you say so. The observer can't help but agree, a flicker of a smile on his face. His dramatic entrance has drawn a crowd, gathered around the wreckage. He uses the confusion to slip away, melting back into the urban shadows. The onlookers are left bewildered as their rooftop warrior vanishes without a trace. The observer looks up as the monstrous tracker plummets from the rooftop above. But there's no fear in his eyes, only a cold, calculated resolve. The beast lands with a ground-shaking impact, its rage focused on its target. He feels a surge of power, his spirit's energy coursing through his veins. The tracker moves with blinding speed, a phantom of claws and fury. But it's just an afterimage. The real monster is already somewhere else. A chilling presence confirms his worst fear. The beast is right behind him. Before he can react, he's caught in a crushing chokehold, his escape cut off. He recognizes the move instantly. It's a perfect checkmate. Guess all that wrestling paid off. He knows his consciousness is fading, with only seconds left to find a way out. The wolf tracker gloats, savoring the moment of its apparent victory. He desperately asks his spirit for help, but its power is still recharging. With no options left, a grim acceptance settles over the observer's face. The spirit laments their short time together, finding purpose even in defeat. It offers a final, grateful farewell to the host it had grown to respect. But the observer's eyes flash with defiance. He's not ready to say goodbye just yet. With a final surge of will, he drives his claws deep into the monster's flesh. The crimson talons find their mark, unleashing a burst of concentrated energy. He's stunned by the result of his desperate last-ditch attack. His spirit erupts from the wound, a massive dragon that even it finds a bit over the top. The dragon spirit taunts the wolf tracker, drawing its full attention. The beast lunges, its massive jaws snapping shut with ferocious power. But the spirit intercepts, sinking its fangs deep into the tracker's flesh. The observer's eyes burn with a cold blue light, his focus absolute. He declares his intention to end the tracker's suffering by force. He explains his claws can sever the parasitic bond, completely stealing his spirit's thunder. He follows through with a devastating kick, sending the beast reeling. Dark energy swirls around him as he fully embraces his newfound power. He stands as a silhouette of pure power, ready for the final blow. The wolf tracker can only stare in disbelief, his own power completely eclipsed. A final, powerful kick sends the wolf tracker flying down the alley. The parasitic spirit screams in agony as its form begins to dissolve. With one last arc of energy, the wolf spirit is completely erased. The observer asks his own spirit if it plans to consume the defeated entity. But the dragon spirit seems utterly unimpressed by the potential meal. It declares a preference for human food, letting the former tracker go free. The defeated tracker stumbles away, his power and purpose now gone. He clutches his chest, the pain of the separation hitting him hard. He can only wonder if his mission to capture the target was a failure. But a new squad of enforcers arrives, asking him the very same question. The defeated tracker is confronted by a new enforcer, demanding he contact his captain. The enforcer questions his presence, asking if he was sent by the blonde commander. He declares that District 9 doesn't welcome outsiders, a clear territorial threat. But his speech is cut short as he's violently slammed against a wall. Meanwhile, inside the Security Department HQ, a different kind of storm is brewing. A superior discusses the rise of rogue spirits and Captain Bu's habit of handling every case. The department's governor, Ming Liang, praises her work with a sinister grin. The blonde commander listens, her expression a mask of cool indifference. But the 9th District's commander, Zhang Chun, questions her team's presence on his turf. She calmly explains the mission was for data collection, the target's capture now inevitable. The governor finds the full-scale mobilization for a single target to be amusingly excessive. The blonde commander remains silent, her patience wearing dangerously thin. Commander Zhang Chun issues a stern warning, telling her to stay within her jurisdiction. The governor reveals he's given a new weapon to Zhang Chun, shocking the commander. Zhang Chun smugly reminds her that a promotion is coming, telling her to wait her turn. She grits her teeth, her frustration with the department's politics reaching a boiling point. With a curt farewell, she turns her back on the conversation and walks away. Her silence is heavy with unspoken rage as she leaves the two men behind. But her angry departure is interrupted by an incoming call on her private line. It's Bufeng offering to find her target, but now his services will cost double. The battle on the rooftop ends with a decisive, bone-shattering kick. Back on the streets, Chinshi tries to blend into the city's noisy chaos. A citywide alert flashes across a nearby screen, a wanted list of spirit hosts. A curious citizen taps on one of the high-threat profiles. And there he is, Chinshi, now officially a public enemy. The spirit congratulates him on his newfound fame. so thoughtful. His attention is drawn to a notification from an online forum. His eyes narrow, a flicker of curiosity in his gaze. He opens the app, diving into the city's digital underbelly. The posts reveal a city grappling with the terrifying new reality of symbionts. The spirit explains the forum's phoenix-like resilience, but Chinshi is just not impressed by the name. It's an intel hub for the city's underground, a place to find a path to survival. Chinshi sets his goal, find the shelter and a way to get this parasite out of his life. But a new post confirms his fears. Another host has been caught, and the city's comms are going dark. He powers down his phone, hoping to erase his digital footprint and avoid being tracked. The spirit points out the flaw in his plan. Cell towers can still pinpoint their location. So much for going off-grid. The grim reality of their situation finally sinks in for our boy. Elsewhere, another symbiont finds himself completely surrounded by enforcers. As they move to capture him, a familiar dark energy erupts from his body. He transforms into a powerful armored warrior, ready to fight his way out. His glowing eyes narrow, ready to face the coming storm. The enforcers unleash a volley of strange bladed projectiles. The spinning discs tear into his armor in a relentless assault. They ricochet through the air, a deadly storm of sharpened steel. But he weathers the attack, standing firm against the barrage. In a flash, the entire squad lies defeated. Well, that was anticlimactic. But a new, more heavily armored challenger steps into the fray. His arm transforms into a massive energy cannon glowing with power. He unleashes a devastating blast, meant to erase his target completely. But the warrior moves like lightning, dodging the beam with impossible speed. But the warrior's armor easily deflects the concentrated energy blast. He counters with a golden ring of power, meeting the enforcer's attack head-on. With a powerful swing, he sends the heavily armored soldier flying. His spirit casually notes that their opponents are more irritating than they are skilled. Meanwhile, Chinshi finally arrives at his destination, the old, crumbling clock tower. He enters the structure, finding it completely abandoned, just as the spirit promised. The spirit reassures him that this shelter is a blind spot, a place to vanish from the world. He steps through a doorway, finding a hidden sanctuary amidst the urban decay. But as he enters, a new voice declares that his journey has reached its end, and the owner of that voice seems to have a very unique sense of style. The spirit senses a presence moving within the supposedly empty shelter. It clarifies that these presences are here to welcome Chinshi, a very creepy welcome party. The mysterious man with glowing eyes tells Chinshi to read an incantation aloud. He recites the words, a powerful chant meant to purify and protect the sanctuary. As he speaks, a wave of energy ripples through the room, lifting objects into the air. He explains this is the incantation to activate the shelter's barrier, sealing it off. A brilliant flash of light engulfs the room, sealing the entrance completely. When the light fades, Chinshi finds himself in a surprisingly cozy, well-kept apartment. But he's not alone. Ghostly figures begin to emerge from the shadows. The spectral beings swarm around the mysterious man, much to Chinshi's confusion. The mysterious man stands still as ethereal blue flames erupt from the floorboards. He commands the spectral energy, summoning a swarm of playful, hungry-looking ghosts. A tidal wave of spirits crashes over Chinshi, who has no idea what's happening. He struggles for air, completely overwhelmed by the ghostly welcome party. With a surge of defiance, he decides he's not going down without a fight. He pushes back against the spectral tide, trying to carve out a path to freedom. The entire room becomes a vortex of blue energy as he spins to fend them off. A new voice explains the ghosts are interested in his body. Guess he's just that popular. Chinshi whirls around, shocked to find a woman watching him from the shadows. She calmly takes a drag from her cigarette, remarking on the difficult life of a host. The rooftop observer makes a less than graceful landing, crashing onto the floor below. Her aerial acrobatics could still use a little work, apparently. But her arrival is misinterpreted by the other warrior, who sees another security bureau agent. He lunges to attack, ignoring her frantic attempts to de-escalate the situation. But the woman's panicked expression hardens into one of cold, dangerous focus. With a flick of her wrist, she stops his assault with a wave of unseen power. The dark-haired symbiont is frozen in place, completely paralyzed by her ability. She holds him effortlessly in the air, surrounded by the shelter's ghostly guardians. The woman scolds him for his rude entrance, her voice dripping with irritation. He panics, realizing he's just attacked the very person protecting this sanctuary. The woman's hand closes around his shadowy form, effortlessly neutralizing his power. He collapses to the ground, gasping for air after the brief, suffocating encounter. She addresses his spirit directly, mocking its failed attempt to brave the outside world. The spirit warns its host to show respect. This woman is a master over a century old. The warrior now faces the shelter's other powerful occupant, his defiance unbroken. He's lifted from the ground, a puppet held by the woman's invisible strings. His gaze hardens as he realizes he's traded one prison for another. The shelter's guardian sizes him up, seeing not a warrior but a potential new servant. He offers the warrior a place to stay in exchange for becoming his personal butler. Great hospitality. The warrior's expression makes it clear he'd rather take his chances on the street. The shelter's guardian makes it clear that his offer is not a request. Even his spirit urges him to be diplomatic, knowing they're completely outmatched. But diplomacy isn't his strong suit, so he goes with insults instead. He manages to grab the guardian's arm, boasting that he's not so tough after all. His gauntlet digs in, but the guardian seems completely unfazed by the attack. The observer's spirit can only stare, realizing its host has made a fatal error. With a casual flick of his wrist, the guardian sends the warrior flying with a blade of pure energy. The observer hits the floor hard, but his defiant spirit remains unbroken. The guardian holds up a small dark seed, a symbol of the lesson he's about to teach. A powerful force yanks the observer forward, his body contorting in agony. He's thrown across the room by an invisible force completely at the woman's mercy. But even overpowered, Chinshi's defiance burns, hurling insults at his captor. The woman calmly reminds the young symbiont that he needs to learn his place. She explains that all roads for their kind lead here, offering a final chance to beg. His spirit, however, tries a more diplomatic approach, even suggesting a cup of tea. But Chinshi roars back, declaring that even symbionts deserve to be treated with dignity. His power erupts into a flurry of shadowy blades, but she remains utterly unimpressed. With his final chance squandered, she turns her back, leaving him to his fate. In the next instant, he's violently ejected from the shelter, sent plummeting to the streets. And waiting on the ground below are the very enforcers he was trying to escape. The enforcers close in, their red eyes glowing with cold, mechanical intent. But before they can strike, they're sent flying by a powerful, unseen force. The rooftop observer lands hard amidst the wreckage, groaning about his terrible luck. His spirit scolds him for angering the woman, a powerful potential ally now lost. He recalls the sheer force of her attack, one that nearly severed his bond. A spark of hope ignites. If she knows everything, she might hold the key to a cure. The other warrior approaches, wondering what could have set off the shelter's guardian. The observer's eyes burn with a new resolve. He needs to earn her trust. But his grand plan hits a snag as he realizes his wallet is gone, lost in the chaos. All he has left are a few coins, a grim start to his mission of redemption. The rooftop observer makes a call, his expression cold and determined. But his identity has been flagged, locking him out of the network completely. His spirit instructs him to memorize a string of numbers for their next move. He watches from the shadows as another host is captured by the enforcers. He knows the phone is a liability, a tracker he can no longer afford to carry. With a final, reluctant toss, he sends his old life into the water. The splash marks the end of his digital footprint in the city. His phone sinks into the depths, taking his identity with it. It settles on the riverbed, a piece of lost technology among the fish. But even underwater, a call comes through, refusing to let him disappear. But the call is answered by a bizarre aquatic spirit, a strange underwater operator. The spirit, complete with a mustache and glasses, holds the phone aloft. Talk about a weird receptionist. The story cuts to the city's nightlife, where a sleazy customer approaches a themed cafe. He's greeted by a cheerful maid with pink hair and cat ears, putting on a perfect smile for the customer. She performs a little ritual for his magical drink, complete with a cute, rehearsed incantation. But her cheerful facade cracks for a moment as she forgets the next step in her performance. She quickly covers her mistake, laughing it off and trying to charm another patron at the table. But beneath the smile is pure rage. She's trapped in this job by a massive debt to the owner. The customer's leering advances only fuel her fury, the pressure to repay her debt reaching its limit. And with a demonic snarl, her patience finally shatters, along with the bottle on his head. The cafe erupts into chaos as the customer reels from the attack. Her co-workers scramble to apologize, but the manager's rage is palpable. She storms into a back alley, muttering curses about the city's filth. Alone in the darkness, she lets her frustration boil over. But her moment of peace is shattered by an angry call from her boss. He threatens her with exile, reminding her this is her second strike. But instead of fear, a cold, predatory idea begins to form in her mind. Her eyes glow with an otherworldly light, revealing her true nature. Wreathed in a purple aura, she turns back to face her problem head-on. She returns to the sleazy customer, but his demands are far from professional. He makes his move, but his advances are met with a chilling question. She feigns disappointment, her magic spell now a hypnotic, otherworldly scent. The sleazy patron falls completely under her spell, his mind lost in the purple haze. With a predatory glint in her eyes, she agrees to meet him after her shift. Their rendezvous is set for a high-end hotel, a private stage for what's to come. But as he carries her into the room, they are being watched by a shadowy observer. The cute maid facade shatters, revealing a monstrous creature with a taste for terror. His lust turns to pure, unadulterated horror as he finally sees her true face. With a single, brutal strike, she sends the terrified man flying across the room. Her true power is revealed, a spectral dragon swirling around its deadly new host. She scoffs at the meager amount of cash, her disappointment clear. But his ID reveals he's from the security bureau, a fact she dismisses as a lie. Her dreams of a big payday are crushed, leaving her utterly disgusted. With her target dealt with, she turns her attention to a notification on her phone. It's a bounty list, and the target's face seems strangely familiar. A sudden memory clicks. She knows Chinshi from college, and the price on his head is staggering. Elsewhere, the rooftop observer finds himself at a payphone, his options dwindling. He recounts his failed attempts to borrow money, his desperation growing with each rejection. He skillfully rolls the last of his coins between his fingers, a nervous habit. With only one coin left, his spirit asks who he'll call for his final gamble. He closes his eyes, weighing his final option on this desperate night. With a weary sigh, he makes his choice, a long shot from a life he left behind. He dials the number his spirit provided, a final gamble on a forgotten connection. The call rings out, echoing through a sterile employee dormitory across the city. The pink-haired maid stares at the unknown number, a flicker of suspicion in her eyes. She answers the phone cautiously, demanding to know who's on the other end. It's Chinshi, his voice filled with relief as he greets his old classmate, Haisha. The name shocks her. She remembers him from college, a face from a different life. A memory of their school days flashes by as she asks why his number is blocked. He explains his phone is at the bottom of a river, which is technically true. Her mind races, realizing her own secret phishing plan is falling into place. She recalls their college days when she first tried to recruit him into her club. But on the other end, Chinshi snaps at his spirit for its constant commentary. Haisha is taken aback by the outburst, but he quickly plays it off. He cuts to the chase, explaining his desperate situation and asking for help. She agrees without hesitation, and he admits he's lost everything. With his options gone, he asks to borrow money just to survive the night. He knows he needs the Shelter Guardian's trust, but even redemption has a price tag. Haisha understands his plight, but her own priorities are already taking shape. She'll meet him, but first she'll get an advance from the tracker, Bufeng. With her plan set, Haisha sees a path to finally repay her debt and escape the city. She agrees to lend him the money, but her cunning gaze reveals a hidden agenda. Chinshi suggests a dead drop to keep her safe, but his spirit senses a trap. She sets the time and place, a deserted warehouse in District 9. But before she can add anything else, the line suddenly goes dead. At the payphone, Chinshi realizes his last coin and his time has just run out. Haisha offers a silent, detached warning, knowing their goals are now intertwined. As he walks away, the spirit asks a simple question: why not call his parents for help? The question lands like a physical blow, casting a dark shadow over Chinshi's face. And with that, a painful memory begins to surface from deep within his past. He remembers a childhood of constant criticism, never feeling safe or supported. He learned to bear his burdens alone, seeing any plea for help as a weakness. The pain in his eyes reveals a deep-seated fear of being a burden to anyone. The memory fades as the morning sun breaks over the city's underbelly. He wakes with a yawn, the harsh reality of his new life setting in. He finds himself sharing a makeshift camp with the city's forgotten souls. But his new roommates have a very unique way of saying good morning. He realizes they've tied him up, planning to turn him in for the bounty. His shock turns to pure disgust at their casual, desperate betrayal. The man justifies his actions, claiming survival trumps all as they wait for the authorities. Kinshi's eyes glow with power, mocking their pathetic attempt to restrain him. With a surge of raw energy, he shatters the ropes binding him. A single powerful strike sends his would-be captors flying in every direction. The spirit appears behind him, cheerfully calling this a good morning stretch. Their greed turns to fear as they grab whatever makeshift weapons they can find. One of them lunges forward, bringing a wooden plank down with a desperate scream. But the makeshift weapon connects with the armored helmet, a futile attack. It shatters on impact, not even leaving a scratch on the demonic armor. The man can only stare in horror, his last hope completely broken. Realizing they're outmatched, the others decide to swarm him all at once. He unleashes a whirlwind of strikes, sending the entire mob flying. But their leader steps forward, hefting a concrete slab like a club. Chinshi's armored form simply crouches, ready to end this little uprising. The man swings with all his might, a desperate, clumsy attack. But the makeshift weapon shatters harmlessly against the demonic armor. With their leader down, the others quickly surrender, offering directions instead of a fight. Chinshi leaps away, leaving the terrified men to contemplate their poor life choices. But his escape is interrupted by a new threat and a woman falling from the sky. He's spotted by onlookers as a strange finned creature keeps pace in the water below. And it's our old friend, the mustachioed fish spirit, apparently here to spectate. A manhole cover smashes into the wall, a makeshift projectile from the fight below. To avoid any more trouble, Chinshi takes to the city's sewer system. But his quiet escape is immediately interrupted by a blinding searchlight. A small surveillance drone zips through the tunnel, its red scanner sweeping the darkness. The spirit confirms his fears. It's a new model from the security division. It seems the authorities are thorough, knowing all the usual escape routes. The spirit advises him to revert to human form to conserve their limited energy. He's surprised to learn that even demonic armor has a battery life. The spirit explains their symbiotic bond. His body now fuels its power. Chinshi finally understands, realizing it's a dog-eat-dog world for spirits too. The spirit continues its lecture, explaining how lesser spirits drift through the world. Those who can't find a host simply become food for the stronger ones. It draws a parallel to human society, a brutal hierarchy where everyone is just trying to get by. The spirit even compares their bond to finding a soulmate. How romantic. But Chinshi isn't buying the fairy tale, rejecting the idea of being partners with a monster. The spirit reminds him of the day they met, when Chinshi saved it from another creature. A memory surfaces of a story he read before arriving in the city. He recalls reading about a community of hosts and their brutal treatment by the authorities. He remembers a video of a man recounting his horrific torture at the hands of the security division. The man explains that even after being cured, his body is failing, a slow and painful death. The online forums paint a picture of a city at war with itself. He remembers his own hesitation before coming, the warnings echoing in his mind. But back then, it was just another post on a screen, easily dismissed. Chihuang City was an outcast's paradise, a place for humans and hosts alike. And for double the pay, Chinshi decided the risk was worth the reward. The tortured man's final warning echoes, "Accept your new life or suffer a fate worse than death." Back in the present, Chinshi arrives at Relic Park to retrieve Haisha's package. The entire area is a desolate wasteland of crumbling ancient stones. He wanders through the ruins, deciding to find higher ground for a better view. His eyes fall upon a massive, shattered sculpture with an inscription at its base. He blows away the dust, revealing the ancient inscription beneath. The plaque identifies the statue as a relic of a creator goddess. The spirit explains this desecration is what caused the rift incident. The name triggers something in Chinshi, a flicker of a forgotten memory. The word echoes in his mind, resonating with the ancient stone. A vision flashes through his mind, a tear between worlds unleashing chaos. He sees a pair of terrifying eyes burning with an ancient hunger. The vision overwhelms him, a psychic backlash flooding his senses with pain. He and the spirit cry out as one, their shared memory now a shared agony. And through the pain, a fragment of a lost memory finally begins to surface. The spirit reveals a vision of its home, a breathtaking world of floating islands and mythical beasts. The memory shifts to a chaotic tournament, a brutal free-for-all among the world's strongest creatures. A stampede of bizarre monsters charges forward, a tidal wave of horns, wings, and fury. Chinshi finds himself in a small, monstrous body, reliving the spirit's past within its own memories. He's immediately attacked by another creature, and the spirit explains this is a fight for territory. The spirit urges him to use his claws and win, to reclaim the land that is rightfully theirs. But as he's attacked, he realizes his opponent's claws are a bit more impressive than his own. The two beasts clash in a blur of motion, a whirlwind of tooth and claw. They lock in a brutal stalemate, their battle drawing the attention of the other creatures. But their fight is interrupted as the sky shatters, torn apart by a mysterious cataclysmic event. The creatures are torn from their world, sucked into a vortex between realities. The spirit explains they were pulled through the rift by an unstoppable force. They arrived in the human world, summoned by the guardians to punish the desecrators. But in this new world, the spirits turned on each other in a desperate, bloody struggle. The miners who had desecrated the ruins were the first to fall before their rage. Chinshi suddenly finds himself in a miner's body, reliving the final moments of the invasion. A voice from the past warns him to run, that he's no match for these monsters. He looks up into the face of a beast, a memory of a swift and brutal end. The attack is a blur of motion, a final crushing blow in a forgotten war. The spirit explains the conflict spiraled out of control, destroying nearby villages in the chaos. The guardian laments his failure. Though the invaders were repelled, the sacred resources were lost. The surviving miners made their escape, their trucks loaded with plundered divinity. But the rift between worlds sealed shut, trapping the ancient beasts on Earth. Their path home was severed, leaving them stranded in a hostile new reality. The last guardian accepts his fate, his life ending amidst the ruins he failed to protect. The vision shifts to a fallen miner, his body giving way to a strange, ethereal energy. His spirit rises from his corpse, a lost soul with no final words to offer. But in this new world, his spirit is just another meal for the stronger creatures. The spirit explains that all the ancient beasts were forced into this spectral existence. Unable to adapt to the human world, they shed their flesh to survive as pure energy. The spirit unleashes a torrent of energy, a desperate act of self-preservation. Its face contorts, a mask of pure, unbridled power. The world dissolves into a blinding flash of light, a cataclysmic explosion. The vision fades, leaving only the silent, shattered stones of the present. Chinshi collapses, the psychic echo of the past leaving him in agony. The spirit explains it was imprisoned until an explosion set it and others free. It recounts its lonely journey, rejected by every host it tried to bond with, until it found a young, desperate Chinshi saved by a mysterious woman. Chinshi demands to know why they're being hunted, and the spirit clarifies it's not personal. The security division is hunting all spirits for a mission known as the Seed-Breaking Plan. Chinshi recalls rumors of the city's true master, who supposedly resides in the Chihuang Tower. The spirit explains the tower's true purpose, to suppress the very rift that brought them here. It's furious, realizing the woman who saved them never mentioned other paths back home. Chinshi's suspicion grows, but confronting her will have to wait for another day. For now, their destination is Port, where Haisha's package awaits. As a new day dawns, the city's morning news broadcast begins to air. A special announcement regarding heteromorphs is broadcast across District 9. A top scientist prepares to release a new research report on their integration into society. He claims a host's stability is determined entirely by the personality of their spirit. His research divides these entities into two simple categories: positive and negative. He claims the positive spirits can coexist peacefully, even fixing their host's flaws. His colleague asks if they can heal the human mind, and the scientist agrees. But the negative spirits are a different story, a chaotic force of pure destruction. In the early stages, the host feels a constant gnawing sense of unease. But what if the host is just as twisted? A match made in hell, apparently. He theorizes that over time, the host and spirit's personalities begin to merge. The broadcast ends with a chilling PSA: surrender to the security division for a cure. But both types turn their hosts into living weapons, constantly evolving and growing stronger. Meanwhile, at Port, the waves crash against the shore. Chinshi arrives at the designated meeting point, a derelict warehouse by the sea. He steps into the designated meeting point, a lonely maze of shipping containers. He finds the package left for him, marked by a surprisingly cute sticker. He confirms this is the spot, recognizing the mark Haisha left behind. But inside, he finds a spiked bat and a letter, a very confusing care package. He opens the letter, his expression hardening as the spirit watches over him. The letter is an apology. She used him, has no money, and left him a bat instead. The spirit roars in fury. Its premonition of betrayal was right all along. So much for old college friends. But his despair quickly turns to resolve as shadows fall over the clearing. The blonde commander steps into the light, taunting him that this was an ambush. She stands before him, her expression cold and confident. The hunt is over. Elsewhere, Haisha celebrates her advance payment, her freedom bought with Chinshi's betrayal. She watches from the shadows, curious to see how her old classmate handles the trap. But even now, she can't help but notice he's still as handsome as she remembers. She decides to stick around, hoping to expose the security division's methods in the process. Down below, the pleasantries are over as an enforcer lands a brutal kick. Chinshi grits his teeth, the pain a sharp reminder of his human vulnerability. The commander lectures him on the consequences of his actions back on the train. But Chinshi argues back, declaring the spirit is the only reason he's still alive. From her hiding spot, Haisha is genuinely moved by his unwavering loyalty. The commander changes her approach, offering to help both him and his spirit. The commander's smile is anything but reassuring, a predator toying with its prey. But Chinshi scoffs, refusing to believe a single word she says. He tells her he knows all about the security division's brutal methods. He questions their motives, knowing their cure is a fate worse than death. He demands to know if they take any responsibility for the lives they've destroyed. The enforcers raise their weapons, but the commander holds them back, not finished yet. She asks if he truly plans to spend his entire life bound to a parasite. She warns that the spirit will learn his every thought, his every weakness. And with a chilling smile, she tells him it will slowly steal his body. The terrifying possibility sends a wave of pure dread through Chinshi. The commander's words hit their mark, creating a rift between host and spirit. The psychic turmoil is too much, and Chinshi screams out in agony. His internal conflict erupts outward, sending him flying back through the air. From the shadows, Haisha watches, realizing something is terribly wrong. The commander reveals her solution, a syringe filled with a glowing green serum. She prepares to administer the cure, but seems to struggle against his chaotic energy. But from the sidelines, Haisha screams for her to stop, unable to watch any longer. The commander's psychological warfare has pushed Chinshi to a breaking point. She presses her advantage, offering a twisted version of salvation. In his mind, the spirit offers a final, loyal farewell, ready to accept his choice. Chinshi screams, his mind and body torn apart by the commander's words. The commander moves in, her eyes cold as she prepares to inject the serum. But Haisha's voice cuts through the chaos, demanding that she stop. She desperately calls out to Chinshi, trying to pull him back from the brink. Her voice reaches him, a single point of light in his fractured consciousness. In that moment, he makes a choice, reaching out to the spirit for help. He refuses to surrender, choosing to trust the monster that saved his life. But the commander declares it's too late, lunging forward to deliver the cure. A blinding flash of golden energy erupts from Chinshi, a perfect fusion of power. The commander is sent flying, the sheer force of his will shattering her attack. The syringe shatters, its so-called cure spilling uselessly onto the ground. The enforcers swarm him, but their attacks are now completely ineffective. The commander can only stare in disbelief, her perfect plan now in ruins. But her soldiers are quick to act, taking Haisha hostage to regain control. Chinshi's eyes burn with rage, declaring he won't let them take her. His loyalty to the woman who betrayed him leaves the commander speechless. The spirit explains this is their second form, born from their shared will to survive. He can feel the power coursing through him, a perfect fusion of man and monster. The commander grits her teeth, realizing her target has just evolved before her very eyes. Haisha confesses her betrayal, but the commander is more interested in her role as an informant. The commander mocks his foolish loyalty as Haisha realizes her powers are useless against the mechanical arm. Chinshi is still adjusting to his new form, wondering where to even begin testing its limits. With her hand bleeding from the earlier blast, the commander furiously orders her soldiers to take him down. He decides to start right there, effortlessly deflecting the enforcer's energy blasts. The soldiers unleash a coordinated barrage, filling the air with blinding blue energy. But he moves with impossible speed, a purple phantom weaving through their attacks. Haisha shouts a warning, telling him to avoid the electromagnetic cannons that can paralyze him on contact. An enforcer's arm transforms, firing a specialized projectile designed to stop him in his tracks. But the projectile hits Haisha instead, silencing her with a restraining gag. Guess they got tired of the helpful advice. With agile grace, Chinshi leaps over the soldier, his movements fluid and unpredictable. He lands a clean, decisive blow, taking down the first enforcer with ease. But another soldier takes aim, firing a concentrated blast of energy. The attack hits him head-on, but his new armor absorbs the full impact. The enforcer holding Haisha can only stare, his most powerful weapon rendered useless. The spirit confirms his new exoskeleton is as strong as a fortress. Enraged, the blonde commander screams for her soldiers to unleash their full firepower. The entire squad opens fire, a storm of energy meant to overwhelm him. The warehouse erupts in a series of explosions, the building crumbling under the assault. But the commotion has drawn some unwanted attention from a new arrival. A strange man with a massive anchor steps into the fray, clearly not here for a boat trip. The anchor-wielding man reports in, eager to join the chaos he's been watching. On the other end of the line is Commander Zhang Chun, who orders his men to capture the host alive. He declares that since this is his district, he'll be handling this little turf war himself. Back at the port, the dust from the explosions begins to settle. But the blonde commander can only stare in shock at what emerges from the smoke. Even Haisha, still bound and gagged, looks on with a mix of fear and awe. Chinshi stands tall, declaring he's finally gotten used to his new body. With a predatory grin, he unleashes his new claws, ready to turn the tables on his attackers.